Hot 91, your choice for hip hop and R&B soul. Hello. Time for a brand new episode of Hampton Roads Voices. Yeah, and today's episode is entitled Justice for Hampton Roads. Okay, so recently, within, a few years, within a few months, it's been a couple of incidents and happenings around the Hampton Roads area that could be suspicious in the eye of the people, if you will. So we're going to just take a deeper look at what's been happening, and also, opening the phone lines, of course, for opinions and thoughts and things of that nature. And of course, we welcome the thoughts and the opinions of our special guest experts of today. Okay, so we have a friend, a family member of the show. He is no stranger at all, Dr. Robert Perkins. You guys' favorite, I think, because every time he's on, the phone lines are ringing. So Dr. Robert Perkins, he is the department chair of sociology right here at Norfolk State University, and that is just one of the many hats that he wears, because you are very active in the community as well, sir, on many different boards and all types of clubs and what have you.
What type of club?
The late night club. No.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here,
yes,
Kilo, and I'm excited about the topic.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you for being here. And also, he brought a friend like he always does.
Yes,
we have Professor Richard Rick James.
Yes, Rick.
Hey. He is a civil rights attorney and also the chair of the Criminal Justice Department at the Portsmouth campus of TCC. Hello there, sir.
Hi, how you doing? I'm also the chairman of legal redress for the Norfolk NAACP.
All right, let them know. So, both of you guys, we know you, Dr. Perkins, but we always have new listeners all the time. So we'll start with Dr. Perkins. But if you guys can go into a little bit about what you do, your background, all that good stuff.
Okay. Again, my name is Robert Perkins, and I am the department chair for sociology here at Norfolk State University. I got my PhD in sociology, where my concentration areas are social inequality and social organization. I am on a lot of boards, as you said, within the city of Norfolk and the state of Virginia. Right now, I'm on the K through 12 task force for equality in the educational system here in the Norfolk Public School System, along with the FIP group, the Fair and Impartial Training, where I met Professor James.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And so that's why I'm so happy that he's able to be with us this evening. And along with that, I'll do a whole lot of other host of things dealing with racial equality. Right now, I'm embarking on new research where I'm looking at how white men raise black men in a racist society.
Wow.
And that's coming from interracial relationships where white men and black women produce young boys. So how do white men help those black men navigate a racial society?
Very interesting. Okay, and moving on to Professor James.
Well, thank you. I'm a Norfolk native, and before I became a professor at Tidewater Community College, I did 27 years in law enforcement, and I did 6 years in the military down at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I'm the department head for administration of justice, or criminal justice, and paralegal studies at Tidewater Community College, and I teach forensic science and forensic pathology. All
right. Well, receipts. Oh, and also tell me about your position with the NAACP.
Yeah, chairman of legal redress for the Norfolk NAACP, and we deal with issues dealing with violations of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which is plain discrimination, and Title VII of the Federal Code, which includes employment discrimination.
Okay. All righty. And we have you, Hampton Roads. Okay, give us a call. We are going to dive into the conversation when we return. And the first thing that we are going to talk about is the case of the shooting and killing of 18-year-old William Chapman II. He is from Portsmouth, and there was a discrepancy between him and a former officer. And, we'll give you all that backstory. But for now, if you have or if you know of any injustices, if you will, or something that you want to take a closer look at having to do with Hampton Roads, give us a call, 823-9110, 823-9110. Of course, keep it clean, okay? Alrighty, I know these topics, we kind of get riled up and we get really passionate about it, and we love that, but we want to keep it as G-rated as we can, all right? 823-9110, 823-9110, and when we return, we will begin the conversation. Hampton Roads Voices, Justice for Hampton Roads. Hot 91, your choice for hip hop and R&B soul, Hampton Roads Voices. And the last break, I had the other guests introduce themselves, but I forgot to say my name, of course. Kilo, if you are an avid listener of Hampton Roads Voices, then you know who I am. But if you're a new listener, no worries. Kilo is here, sitting down with special guest experts, Professor Rick James. He's a civil rights attorney and also the chair of the Criminal Justice Department for the TCC's Portsmouth campus, and also the chairman of Legal Regress for the Norfolk NAACP. And I also have Dr. Robert Perkins here, friend of the show. You know him very well. He's the department chair of sociology right here at Norfolk State University. One of the many things he's involved in with getting justice, not only here, but worldwide. If we can say that. That sounds
Yes,
good.
we can say it.
Yes. All right, so let's hop into this conversation. And of course, Hampton Roads, we welcome your thoughts and your opinions and your ideas at any time during this conversation. 823-9110, 823-9110 is the number, okay? So the case of 18-year-old William Chapman II, the case of the shooting and killing of him. I'll give, of course, a little bit of a backstory, and you gentlemen can hop in at any time to correct me or to, any allegations that you heard about the story. Okay, so this is according to WTKR. The Virginia State Police says that the Portsmouth police were alerted by Walmart security about a suspected shoplifter. He was an 18-year-old male identified as William L. Chapman II, and he was spotted crossing the parking lot on foot and was approached by a Portsmouth police officer, a then Portsmouth police officer. He is now a former officer. So during the encounter, a struggle ensued that resulted in Chapman being shot by the police officer, and the officer immediately requested medics, but Chapman died at the scene. Okay, so it's been a couple of different details kind of put out there by witnesses, and of course police reports and his account. And so of course the investigation went on, and former Portsmouth police officer Stephen Rankin was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison, but before that he was charged with first-degree murder. Okay, so that's kind of it in a nutshell. Are you gentlemen familiar with that story?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think we are, yeah.
Okay. All righty. So, in that case, okay, do you believe that because this is really not common, and I'm sorry to say that, but it's not common for police officers to be found guilty of anything, usually, when they are tried for killing an unarmed anybody. Because we see time and time again with high-profile cases that these cops get to walk off basically without any weight of their actions. So do you think this kind of served as an example and a step towards holding law enforcement accountable for their actions?
Well, I think the Commonwealth Attorney in the city of Portsmouth, Ms. Morales, I think she did an excellent job in putting on her case and making the legal argument. And I think what she had to prove that the officer's actions were unreasonable under the Fourth Amendment. That's the question.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. And I know Stephanie Morales very well. And I appreciate the fact that she was able to get a guilty verdict. I'm of the mind that he should have gotten way more time.
Right.
But other people are of the mind that he shouldn't have gotten any time. Mm-hmm. I still think that there is so many problems and issues in our society with dealing with skin color and gender, and how that is perceived so differently if there was an afflicting skin color or afflicting gender. So because of those things, that people have a reaction that is very different from a reaction they would have with someone else or of another group of another statute, if you will. So I still think that is very much at play, and we have not addressed that in our society. A lot of people like to label it as institutionalized discrimination. Whatever we label it as, it is still a beast that is out there in our society that are causing these incidences to happen.
Yeah.
And Professor James, I know you've seen a lot of this, because every time there's a shooting of an unarmed victim, the first excuse I hear is, I feared for my life.
Absolutely.
I fear for my life. And I often have said that as professionals, we cannot allow our emotions to drive our actions. That's why we have training. And so in incidents such as those, I expect as a citizen for our police officers to respond based on their training, not based on their emotions. Because I can never qualify or quantify your feelings. You can always say that you felt something.
This is true.
And so I can't do anything about your feelings. You know, you can feel afraid if I just walked in the room because I'm big, you know, but that doesn't give you the right to shoot because your training should be different. And I really think that should be the foci for local, state and nationwide police officers when dealing with anyone, including unarmed black males in our society.
Absolutely. But even if, I'll tell you this. So this is according to pilotonline.com, and it is a testimony of or an account of a witness, a Walmart guard who was just standing feet away from the incident. So he said that William Chapman II wasn't following the officer's orders. He said when Rankin pulled his handgun, Chapman responded by saying, "Are you going to beep, shoot me," end quote. And he made a fighting gesture. So I think it was one account that said that he charged him, which is why the officer pulled out a gun. But according to Gregory Provo, who was the Walmart guard, he testified that it was basically a jab step, not so much charging.
Yeah, but police officers are also trained that you have to meet equal amount of force. You know, you can't use excessive force. And so if a person pull out their fist, then maybe the police officer can use his mace, his baton, or the like. You know, they're not supposed to be using deadly force unless they are faced with deadly force. And just a person holding up their arm or getting into a fighting stance, that doesn't necessarily create a deadly force to where a person can say he feared for their lives and then decided to shoot someone. If that's the case, then the police officers can justify shooting anybody.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that what has been done?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's why a lot of cases are coming to court. But then, of course, the final decision is going to be left up to the jury, and hence the dilemma where you see a lot of cases in certain areas, the officers are found not guilty.
I tell you what, so they had, as in the jury, they had the option of giving out the sentence or kind of unanimously, come up with the decision to put him away for up to 10 years, but they decided to do 2.5 years. Not sure why, maybe because there were some people on the jury who didn't even agree. According to Wavy, there was a particular juror, her name is Peggy Thorpe. She went on to say, quote, "The wrong decision was made that day. I should have stuck with my gut and my heart and followed that and said not guilty because he is not guilty," end quote.
Yes, that was just during the deliberation process. And so there's difference of opinions when juries are in there and they're looking at different evidence. And they're supposed to talk and debate and try to influence another juror to decide on their side, because otherwise you can have a hung jury. But that brings up another point. You know, most people in our communities don't want to serve on juries. If they get a subpoena for jury duty, they try to get out of it because of various reasons, or they're going out of town. They just don't want to participate in the jury process. But then in the African American community, you know, one of the complaints we make is we don't have a fair and impartial juror. Well, we have to participate in the process to make sure it's fair. And so more of us need to participate. When we get the subpoena to become a juror, we need to go ahead and participate, show up, get involved, listen to the cases, and be part of the judicial process.
Yeah. Yes.
But there's an economic part to that as well. They can't afford to take off work.
That is true. That is true. But we're still, as citizens, supposed to participate in the process, because the jurors are the ones that make the decision, and we're supposed to be, you know, we're supposed to have a trial by juries of our peers.
Yeah.
And so if our peers don't show up for court, then who are we going to be tried by? Who's going to be the juror if it's not our peers?
Yeah. We want to hear from you, Hampton Roads. So what's your questions or comments about this particular topic? 823-9110, 823-9110. We're not done with this story about William Chapman II of Portsmouth. We're going to get back into this after a very short break. So make sure you keep it locked, but we do want to keep our phone lines ringing. 823-9110 is Hampton Roads Voices, Justice for Hampton Roads. Hi, Hot 91, your choice for hip hop and R&B soul. Hampton Roads Voices is live right now, and we are discussing justice for Hampton Roads. It's been a few incidents and happenings around our community that we should take a closer look at and really get down to the bottom of it. Is justice being, what's the word I'm looking for? Is being dealt with? Is it the focus of these particular happenings and incidents? Should we be calling our legislators? Should we be reaching out to our senators? You know, things of that nature. And we really just want to have an open discussion. Of course, we have special guest experts here like we do every week. But these special guest experts are near and dear to our heart because he is a friend and a family member of the show, Dr. Robert Perkins. Of course, he is a lot of things, but what we know him to be is the department chair of sociology of Norfolk State University. Yes. And we also have his friend here. He brought along a very qualified special guest expert.
Very happy to be here.
If I say so myself. Professor Rick James. He's a civil rights attorney, also the chair of the Criminal Justice Department at the TCC's Portsmouth campus, and chairman of legal regress for the Norfolk NAACP. Hello, fellas.
Hello.
Yes.
Hey, we sounded pretty good.
Yes. and in unison and everything.
Yes.
And we also have you, Hampton Roads. Give us a call and let us know any of your opinions or anything like that as we are discussing these particular topics. But I do want to ask you a question, Hampton Roads, to get those phones ringing. What do you think about snitching? What do you think about snitching? What's the difference between snitching and reporting? I want to know. 823-9110, 823-9110. And we do have a phone call. Let's get to it. Hampton Roads Voices, Hot 91. You are live on the air. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, my name is Quan.
Hey, Quan.
Hey.
What's your question, comment, or concern?
I had a comment about things that Hampton Roads should be concerned about.
Okay.
I just wanted to bring up Dominion Power and the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, how they're putting a pipeline through the entire state of Virginia, but specifically in Hampton Roads is going to be going through Chesapeake and Suffolk.
Okay.
And they haven't really done any research on these pipelines to see if they're safe to go through any of the waterways in Virginia, and the pipeline is just going to destroy a lot of Virginia's environment. But in Hampton Roads, it's really concerning because they have these permits that they're trying to put through that will allow them to build the pipelines without testing how safe it is for the water. And that could really hurt Hampton Roads fishing industry. So I just wanted to bring that up as a real concern that all of Hampton Roads should be worried about.
We appreciate you.
Yes. Are you following the elections that's coming up in November?
Yes.
Okay.
Dominion has actually given Ralph Northam and Ed Gillespie over $100,000 up to this year combined in donations.
Okay.
Yeah, environmental justice is a huge issue that's going on in today's society. It started really gaining traction probably in the 70s. What they found is that organizations, big organizations and corporations would come in and disrupt people's communities. And they would disrupt them by digging, by bringing toxins and other things into the environment. And by doing that, they were pouring poison into the environment. So people were getting sick, getting all types of cancers, blood disease, dying at a very early age because of the result of disrupting their environment. So what Quan is bringing up is very important, and we need to educate ourselves on that as well. And in addition to it, it does have a racial component because
Yes,
particularly.
I was actually going to say that environmental racism is a real thing because this pipeline will actually be going through Georgetown and Chesapeake, which is a majority black community.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
it is a really racial concern.
Yes, and it's actually more structured than you probably know. For example, in Chicago with Cabrini Green, that was actually built on poison ground by big corporations. And so what a lot of corporations, I shouldn't say a lot, what some corporations have done is that they actually put toxins and poison in the ground as a consequence of building whatever they were building. and the ground and the soil would become toxic. So they would build low-income housing and invite minority families to come live there for cheap. And so you're thinking that you're getting a big deal and people really love you and they want the best for you and your family. But what they were actually doing was double dipping. They were getting money from the land for whatever the cause were that their corporation is involved in, and also money from you for paying rent for this toxic land. And so kids were out there playing in these soil land and they were becoming sick and they were breaking out with all types of diseases on their skins and things of that nature. And when they did a breath over the entire nation, they found that the majority of these toxic land, these environmental injustice spaces, were minority communities. And a good example, Quan, go check out Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Pine Bluff, Arkansas is a very small community, and they have 4 big corporations right in that particular environment. And when I went there, I saw people with a lot of skin disease there. I was like, this is unusual. And I was seeing the air. I was like, you're not supposed to see air. I'm seeing things floating in the air. And so I did an experiment, and I put a half a glass of water in a glass, and I set it on a counter. And I came back in 24 hours, and there was this big red ring where the water stopped in the glass. And I said, wow, this is what people are drinking in these communities. And you have no idea how you're being poisoned day in and day out. And so this is a huge problem, environmental racism. So I do encourage Hampton Roads to get on the phone, talk to your local officials, educate yourselves, and find out if this would be something that is good for our environment. And because we have a lot of waterways here, so we need to really think about that.
That should be a concern of everyone.
Yes.
Yeah. I saw protesters on the news, really trying to protest this particular pipe that's coming through the Hampton Roads area. And it was not just black people, it was white people, it was everybody that was out there, hand in hand, really bringing awareness to that. So thank you, Quan. I really appreciate that, Quad.
Yeah. I also had a question for Professor James.
Okay.
Go ahead.
How do I get in touch with the NAACP? Because I'm actually the Hampton Roads organizer for a nonprofit environmental organization.
Yes, well, you can check.
And I've just come across a lot of people this week who said they tried to get in touch with the NAACP and haven't been able to.
Well, the Norfolk NAACP has a website that is up and running. We have our monthly meetings, the first Monday of the month at 6:30, right on Gulf Street. And so all of our board members are on the website also. And we're easy to find.
Okay.
Yep, Norfolk Branch NAACP. If you just type that in, you'll go right straight to the website, and you'll see our president, who is Joe Dillard, and all our board members, and all the information is right there.
A Norfolk State alum.
And that's right, Joe Dillard's a Norfolk State alum. That's right. And we are very active. In fact, we have a Freedom Front banquet, which is on October the 7th, this Saturday at 12:30.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. Thank you.
We want to keep those calls going, 823-9110, 823-9110. And the original question I asked are, what are some happenings or some incidents around Hampton Roads that you think that we should, as a community, be more aware of about what's happening? And it might be a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm trying to be careful with my words. It might be a little bit suspect, if you will. Like, maybe we should take a deeper look into that. We want to know, 823-9110, 823-9110. So we were talking about the case of the shooting death of William Chapman II. That former Portsmouth police officer, Stephen Rankin, was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison, of course, for shooting him and ultimately killing him. He was originally charged with first-degree murder, but he was found guilty of voluntary manslaughter. So the family of William Chapman moved forward with getting some kind of monetary settlement compensation. They was, according to their family attorney, John Babineau, they was going to sue not only the former chief, Ed Hargis, but I believe the city as well, according to 10 on your side, for negligent hiring, negligent retention, and unreasonable use of force but the city went ahead and paid the family, or agreed to pay the family, $1 million.
There's a settlement.
A settlement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my question to you, gentlemen, when we hear of those things, of settlements, because also the most recent one that pops into my head is the case of Philando Castile, when the cop was found not guilty and he walked away clean. The city went ahead, or the police department went ahead and paid the family. Now, when this happens, do you think that is the city's way of admitting guilt, if you will?
Well, you have to understand there's two parts to it. There's a criminal part to a trial, and then there's a civil part to the trial. Let's go back to the O.J. Simpson case. If you remember, O.J. Simpson was found not guilty in the criminal trial, but found guilty in the civil trial. The burden of proof is different. In the civil trial is you have to be found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and for the civil trial is preponderance of the evidence. So the burden of proof is very different. It's easier for a person to be held liable for civil negligence than it is for criminal. However, on the civil part, there's no your jeopardy, your liberty is not in peril. That means you can't get any jail time. You can only get a punitive damage, monetary damages. So, and of course, the burden of proof is a little less.
Okay.
And I'm sure the city of Portsmouth, doing the settlement, said they weren't going to admit any guilt or any wrongdoing, and they paid the settlement amount.
Interesting. Okay, because I know a lot of people, and I'm glad you broke it down like that, but I know a lot of people is like, oh, well, he wasn't found guilty, but you just going to hand money to the family and think that everything is going to be okay. And, sometimes they don't know the difference of, civil and criminal cases. 823-9110, 823-9110. I want to hear from you, Hampton Roads Voices. And I also want to hear about snitching. We're going to get into that in a bit. But snitching, what do you think about it, Hampton Roads? What do you think? 823-9110. Okay, so moving on with high-profile cases in this area having to do with inmate deaths. It's been a spike in that lately, if you will. And the two that were the most high-profile was the case of Jamichael Mitchell and Henry Stewart. So we can get into Jamichael Mitchell first. Okay, so let me get my facts first. So Jamichael Mitchell, he was an inmate at Hampton Roads Regional Jail. And on August 19th, he was found dead in his cell. Okay, he was only 24 years old. He was from Portsmouth. And come to find out, he struggled with mental illness. He admitted that he had bipolar disorder. Okay, that's according to court documents and his family's attorney. And before they found out the real cause of death, the jail staff, they said that it appeared that he died of natural causes. Okay, so after the autopsy and all the facts were coming up, they found out that he actually died of starvation in the jail.
Yeah, my concern with that case is that if they knew he had some type of mental illness, and the courts had already said that refusal to provide adequate medical treatment is a violation of the Eighth Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment. And it's obvious to me that they didn't provide adequate medical treatment because he died in the jail.
Right.
People with mental illnesses from time to time do things that's harmful to themselves, including not eating. And so I believe that the medical staff could have took the appropriate measures to either get a court order to take him to a hospital and do some type of feeding tube to keep him alive, give him the proper medication for he can, become, more stable again. Those things could have probably have happened. But it sounds like to me that they wasn't paying close enough attention to him, watching and monitoring his behavior and his eating habits, and then he died in jail. Yeah.
This just baffles me. It absolutely baffles me. I mean, this is complete negligence. How is it that you're able to have someone in your presence? And I'm thinking about all the staffing in the jail. Everyone that had to come in contact with this young man over time.
Yeah.
Did you not see that he was losing weight?
Yeah.
And then the mental illness piece is very important because we still have a long way to go with our institutions catching up with the knowledge of mental illness and how to correct it. But outside of the mental illness, there is just a physical illness that was ignored. And how does someone actually die in the presence of security officers and in front of other inmates? I mean, this just baffles me.
Yeah, it sounds like that the security officers and the medical staff was not properly trained, and nor were they properly supervised. Because there's supervisors there to make sure that they're doing their job, checking the records, making sure they're monitoring the patients and taking the appropriate action.
True.
But it doesn't sound like that happened.
Well, I agree with all of that, Professor James. But there's a humanity portion of this. I mean, just us as human beings. If I see someone sick, if I see someone starving, I just don't walk past them. I just don't do nothing. So that's the part I'm just not understanding. Well, unless he starved and we didn't know he was starving, or they didn't know he was starving, but I don't know how that is possible.
You know, when people get into leadership and powerful positions, you know, I remember the director of the FBI, before the agent would graduate from the FBI Academy, he wanted them all to go and visit the Holocaust Museum. And the reason why he wanted them to visit the Holocaust Museum is for them to see what people in power will do to other people. And something is unthinkable like the Holocaust. So it happens, and people are negligent. And if everyone did the right thing, I think we wouldn't have courts and the necessity for juries.
Well, that's true.
But that's why the law says that, you know, supervisors and managers can be held responsible for not properly supervising people, because the managers are supposed to make sure that those workers are actually doing the job and doing it appropriately. Yeah. And so that's why they're being held under vicarious liability for failure to supervise. So it sounds like not only the workers wasn't doing their job, the supervisors wasn't doing their job also, making sure they was doing their job. And so it's a systematic problem that we have in our jails, and some of our jails, and police departments.
Well, I wonder if we have all the facts.
Yeah, because this is still developing. And I'm going to give you more information about that. But the Portsmouth Commonwealth attorney, we brought her up before, Miss Stephanie Morales, she kind of requested some more information according to some additional allegations that were made. Of course, they have not released who made the allegations, when they were made, and things of that nature. But this is a developing story, and they're still doing investigations about this, still open.
Yeah, but what are the facts that we do know? We do know that he was incarcerated in jail. We do know that they knew he had some mental illnesses.
Yes.
We do know that he wasn't properly eating food, and we do know he died in jail where they have some type of medical treatment.
Yes.
Right.
But those are the things we do know. And so the question now is, did the people in the leadership position take the appropriate actions? Because a mental unstable person is not going to do the right thing.
But what we don't know, for example, if he was isolated and they forgot that he was locked up in some cell somewhere. We don't know that. I just don't know if we have all the information. I, as a human being, have a hard time believing that people are sitting there or standing there interacting with someone who's starving to death and not do anything. I just have a tough time, because I know that jails and prisons send people who have medical issues to hospitals so they can seek medical help. So why didn't that happen? And in the case of mental illness, we have institutions to treat them as well.
That is true. And of course, the question is also, and I'm sure the training records is going to come out for the medical personnel and the deputy sheriff there. Were they trained to monitor and deal with people with mental illnesses? And was that training appropriate, up to today's standards?
Well, yeah, he was. He got a psychological evaluation, and he was found incompetent to stand trial. So that's why he was in that particular jail, waiting to be transferred to the Eastern State Hospital in Williamsburg, which would be a little bit better for people in his condition. But there were no beds available at that particular time, so he was kind of waiting around until there was availability for him in that particular case. So just, throwing that out there. 823-9110, 823-9110. We want to hear your 2 cents. Go ahead and put yours in, Hampton Roads. 823-9110. And when we return, we'll get more into the backstory of Jamichael Mitchell, and also the case of Henry Stewart, who also died in jail. All right? It's Hampton Roads Voices, Justice for Hampton Roads.
Norfolk State University Broadcasting. WNSB, Norfolk, Chesapeake, 91.1 FM and HD1. Virginia's only full-time urban public radio station. Hot 91.
That's right, Hot 91, your choice for hip-hop and R&B soul. You are tuned into Hampton Roads Voices. Yeah, and tonight's episode is entitled Justice for Hampton Roads. We are taking a closer look and a deeper look into some of these incidents and happenings around Hampton Roads from, the past few years, okay? We have special guest experts with me today, Dr. Robert Perkins and Professor Rick James. And we have touched on the shooting and killing of William Chapman II of Portsmouth. And now we are taking a deeper look at the case of Jamichael Mitchell, who was an inmate at Hampton Roads Regional Jail and was found dead in his cell. Come to find out, he died of starvation. He was also an inmate that suffered from mental illness. Just a little bit more about the arrest of Jamichael. Court documents show that Mitchell was arrested on April 22nd for trespassing and stealing a Mountain Dew, a Snickers bar, and a zebra cake from a 7-Eleven on George Washington Highway in Portsmouth. Okay, and so between April 22nd and August 19th, I guess he was waiting to be transported to a facility that was better equipped for mentally ill inmates, the Eastern State. Well, not even just a facility. He was supposed to go to the hospital. Okay.
Yeah. Most of the facilities are full. That's a statewide problem. You remember, we had a member of the General Assembly here whose son was mentally ill, and they didn't have a bed for him. Can't remember his name. Yes, his son committing suicide.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we want to hear from you, Hampton Roads. 823-9110, 823-9110. Put your 2 cents in and get in where you fit in anywhere in this conversation, okay? All right. So this Mitchell was not the only high-profile case in which an inmate died inside of the Hampton Roads Regional Jail. We want to take a look at Mr. Henry Stewart. Okay, let me get my facts about Mr. Stewart. So he collapsed in August as well at the Hampton Roads Regional Jail, and he started foaming at the mouth. Okay, so according to a lawsuit that was filed by his family, Mr. Henry Stewart collapsed, and then when fellow inmates tried to alert a correctional officer, they were met with some indifference. They were yelling, they were kicking at the door, trying to get the attention of the correctional officer. According to the lawsuit, the officer's response eventually was, quote, "I'm busy right now," end quote. Stewart's family filed for a $40 million wrongful death suit in the U.S. District Court of Norfolk. And it names 36 defendants, including the regional jail, of course, Hampton Roads Regional Jail Authority, and Correct Care Solutions. Mm-hmm. Okay? He was 60 years old also. And I think this is also helpful information. 2 days before this, he had filed a grievance with the jail regarding his lack of access to medical care.
Yep. And you see, we talked about vicarious liability earlier. And so they listed everybody that was in that chain of supervision and going to hold them responsible.
Yeah. Everybody.
So if you're going to be a supervisor, you do your job. Make sure that your people are doing what they're supposed to do. Otherwise, you can be held responsible.
As you should. Because that is your job, to make sure that everybody underneath you is doing their jobs.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So, in response to this, the state, I have seen and I've heard and I've read, of course, that the state is doing what they think should be done to try to curb or prevent altogether incidents like this. So I heard of a training for jail officials and prison officials on how to be strategic and how to handle sick individuals or sick inmates, and making sure that they're getting the care that they need. And also there has been a grant to fund services for those incarcerated with mental illnesses. What do you guys think about that? Is that going in the right direction?
That's a good start. There's also new leadership there.
Okay.
There's new leadership. at the regional jail.
Well, that's good. Yes, they had. Yeah, that was shortly after these incidents took place. Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, they had 2 turnovers since then. Right?
Yep. They did.
But it's definitely going in the right direction, but so much more need to happen. We've come a long way in our society about mental illness, because before mental illness, when you got diagnosed years and years, decades, hundreds of years ago, whenever it was, when we just started learning, we had no idea what was really happening as a society. We would kill people because we thought they were possessed. You know, there was the demons inside of them. And then we went to other types of methods to try to cure mental illness with shock therapy and extreme treatments that ultimately caused death, or either traumatic experiences that they lived out for the rest of their lives because of deprivation to the brain and cutting off blood circulations and all that stuff. So we have come a long way with mental illness, but we have a long way to go. And I will say this, the older I get, I'm starting to wonder, the people that we classify crazy, if they're really crazy, is us. Because we have a tendency to just follow the norm without questioning the norm. They have a tendency to analyze everything and say, does this make sense? Does this work for me? So who are really the crazy group? If we're just following the norms without questioning, even if something that leads to injustice, as Quan talked about earlier with environmental justice, and not questions that this is what they say is okay, so it's okay. So who are the real crazy ones?
Yeah, you know, from the courts is going to look at whether the person understood the difference between right and wrong, and is the fact that they do not understand the difference between right and wrong is because they suffer from a mental disease. That's the test that the court's going to use under what they call the Manhattan rule.
Now, does right and wrong mean understanding the law?
No. Do they understand, for example, do they understand that their actions are wrong? And what, in other words, we call it mens rea.
Right.
Criminal intent.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the test. Do they understand the difference between right and wrong? And they take a healthcare professional to determine that.
And as a sociologist, I would argue right and wrong is a social construction. So what is right for you might not be right for me.
True, but then the cause of them not understanding the difference between right and wrong has to be because they suffer from a mental disease. That's the second part.
Right. But here again, our laws are based on who somebody or some group decide was right or wrong.
Well,
versus
those are arguments that have to be made in court, and they have to have their medical professional come and say, yes, this person does
maybe
suffer.
It's not a medical issue. Maybe it's just an analytical issue.
Maybe. All those arguments can be made. Yeah.
But in the case of Henry Stewart, I do want to throw out there, he didn't have, that we knew of, he didn't have a mental illness. What he died from was actually a perforated ulcer in his stomach. That is according to a medical examiner that determined that. He lost about 35 pounds in the 2 months that he was in the regional jail. So that kind of goes back to who's not paying attention. Because 35 pounds, that's
significant.
In 2 months. That's not normal. So according to the lawsuit, again, the subsequent nurses, quote, delayed the onset of CPR for Stewart and considerably delayed the calling of 911, end quote.
And I believe they also ignored his request for medical treatment, along with other inmates that was requesting medical treatment for him.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And they're going to have to answer all those questions in court.
Yeah. And we do have a phone call. Let's get to it. Hi, 91, you're live on the air. Who am I speaking with?
Shantae.
Hi, Shantae. What's your question, comment, or concern?
Well, my only concern would be about the young man who was incarcerated behind a zebra cake and a soda.
Jamaica.
And he was, I guess, incarcerated from April and passed away in August.
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out, why was he incarcerated all that long time in the first place behind a zebra cake and a soda?
That totaled less than $5.
Exactly, where you can probably sign for your own cartons to get out and go to trial.
Yeah, I don't know the specific facts, but I know sometimes if you create a larceny and it's a third offense larceny, then that larceny can turn into a felony. I'm not sure if that's the case here. That is a good question that you have.
Right, but it also just puts you on mind that he had a mental illness, and only if he took a cake and a soda, that right there tells you that evidently he was some type of hunger going on.
It might not be hunger just as much as the mental illness taking place, because he could have been bipolar or schizophrenic.
Absolutely.
And if those are the cases, what Shantae is saying is exactly correct. But outside of the mental illness part, Shantae, is, if I'm hearing you correctly, it seemed to be an injustice to have someone sitting in jail for months over a $5 crime. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. That's exactly what you're hearing.
Yes. And so that is something that we might need to take it, considering too, how over packed the jails are.
Right.
They are completely full. There are folks sleeping on the floors and then things of that nature. So it's a $5 crime worth that. And I consider myself sane, but I would be crazy if you locked me up for 3 months for $5.
Okay.
Right.
So
Correct. And then not only that, I mean, if he was waiting for trial and there was no bed, then why he couldn't go home where he probably could have got the proper medical treatment
and
until trial.
Yeah, and then it's the other social impacts. For example, losing your home because you couldn't pay rent for 3 months, being isolated from family and friends. And I'm not saying that people should go out there and commit larceny, and if it's less than $20, you should get away with it. I'm not saying that whatsoever.
No, I'm not saying that either.
Right, but I'm saying
when
that
you have something like this and you just preventing the facts, it's just like, okay, where do we stand as a society? Because here you have people that's killing people every day, and or worse, or maybe stealing cars or doing bank robberies or whatever. And here, some of these people are out on a bond, but here you have this person who stole less than $5 and can't get out.
Yeah, it does sound like cruel or unusual punishment, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
It definitely doesn't fit the crime. It just doesn't. I would have given him $5.
And I just want to also not to prolong this, but I also wanted to make a statement about the young man who got, killed at the Walmart. I mean, I have worked at Walmart before, and I know not to be speaking on color, but when I used to work there, we used to have a couple of white individual kids that came in there and used to just bum rush our electronic pilot and run out the door.
Oh, wow.
I don't see nobody, shooting them down. And they get assaulted one of our associates.
Wow.
But I just seen what I seen.
So to you, it sounds like unequal justice. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for your comments today.
Yeah, thank you, Shantae.
Well, thank you. You have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So yeah, very good talking points by Shantae, and we're going to keep this conversation going. When we return, we're going to be talking about these Confederate monuments that are in question and or uncertainty. They are coming down around our local cities and counties like Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Portsmouth. We're going to get into why they should come down, what they really stand for, and things of that nature. We are talking about justice for Hampton Roads right here on Hampton Roads Voices. It's Hot 91. Hot 91, your choice for hip hop and R&B soul. Hampton Roads Voices live right now. And today we are speaking about justice for Hampton Roads. There's been a few stories that make you say, yes, that's been happening here recently within a few years, a few months, a few days even in the Hampton Roads area. And we want to hear your questions, your comments, your concerns about these happenings. Hampton Roads, 823-9110, 823-9110. I did a little pause right there. What are some happenings in Hampton Roads that we haven't discussed yet that you think that the community should be warned about? Not really warned, but they should know about. Go ahead and give us a call. Let us know. Also, we're going to get into these Confederate monuments, the removal of them, of course, following the crazy uproar in Charlottesville and neighboring cities, neighboring states they took it into their hands to remove some Confederate monuments that are out in the open. Give us a call. What do you think about the removal of these Confederate monuments and renaming of these schools and buildings that are named after Confederate soldiers and generals and all of that, specifically for Hampton Roads? Do you think that they will have any real effects or real changes? Give us a call, 823-9110. Okay, fellas, so...
you gotta let me go first on this one.
Okay. Would love to.
Okay. First of all, let's make a couple things clear.
Okay.
One, the Confederacy was never recognized as a nation state. Yeah, the Confederacy was never recognized as a nation state. No one recognized the Confederacy as a country or nation state. The United States of America didn't recognize them as a nation state. Abraham Lincoln, who was the president at the time, said that they were insurgents, which means that they were people who were doing illegal stuff. They had no authority under the United States Constitution to separate from the United States of America, and they were still counted under as part of the United States Congress. So they were never officially or legally separated to be recognized as a nation state. That's number one. Two, the Civil War happened between 1861 and 1865. And at the end of 1865, there was a lot of people that said, including Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass. Abraham Lincoln mentioned it in his second inaugural speech, that the war was over slavery. Everybody said it was over slavery. The so-called vice president of the Confederacy said it was over slavery himself. And so we know it's over slavery. We know they were not recognized as a nation state. And we know that majority of the Confederate monuments went up during the Jim Crow era, which was the area where we were, minorities and blacks were being disenfranchised through the law. Most of those Confederate monuments went up at courthouses and government buildings. There was one in New Orleans that went up in 1832, I believe, at a railroad track where there was a Confederate soldier separating black neighborhoods from white neighborhoods. And from an NAACP standpoint, there was another issue that happened, Shelley versus Kramer. Shelley versus Kramer was a 1948 case where the NAACP's lawyer, then Thurgood Marshall, argued in the United States Supreme Court to fight against restrictive covenants, which made it illegal for a white person to sell a house to a black person in a white neighborhood. Of course, the Supreme Court, we won in the United States Supreme Court. And in 1948, that's when the Lee Jackson Monument went up in Baltimore, Maryland, in reaction to that civil rights case. So the monuments were going up during specific times to intimidate.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the history. The history is we had a group of people that so-called separated themselves from a country illegally. The war was over slavery, and there's nothing to be honored about that. There's nothing honoring about that. Can you imagine? Now, what you think about this? Can you imagine in Israel them putting up a statue of Hitler?
Seriously,
or a school named after Hitler anywhere in the United States of America, or anywhere in the world? Won't happen. And I hate to tell you this. I went to J.E.B. Stewart Elementary School. J.E.B. Stewart was a Confederate general. Those Confederate soldiers killed American soldiers. And those are the facts.
Those are the facts. They are still celebrating the birthday of Robert E. Lee in the Deep South. I know South Carolina, for one, that is still a holiday in which kids are out of school, people don't work on Robert E. Lee's birthday. We do have 2 phone calls, and then I want to hear a little bit more from our special guest experts. Hi, man, T1, you're live on the air. Who am I speaking with?
Yeah, this is Joe Belvedere.
Oh, hello there.
Hey, what's going on? I called in a couple months ago. We were talking about gang violence.
Okay, all righty.
All right.
How you doing?
So, I'm doing all right, Queen. How are you?
I'm doing well. Go ahead and share your question or your comment or your concern.
No, let's speak some facts.
Okay.
All right, boss man, you said some real facts. All right, you speak about laws and what we have to understand about laws is laws never change, you know. Until you go down there to the courthouse and you ask them to change them laws are going to stay the same. So regardless, if you take a statue away, things are going to remain the same. You see what I'm saying? Because the fact of the matter, we don't know the actual law. You see what I'm saying? We don't know facts versus fiction. We don't know, you know, the past history. So when you have a statue, the statue is there to remind you of who's really in control. You see what I'm saying? It's not so much about, you know, black and white. It's about, you know what I'm saying, the fact of the matter, who's in control. Once you allow someone else to have control over you, you're lost. You see what I'm saying? And that goes into speaking on mental illness. When you go to that doctor's office, you only believe what that doctor tells you. So if a doctor tells you that you're sick, you're going to believe that you're sick. You see what I'm saying? It's about mind over matter. You feel me? So if you think that you're sick because someone else told you you're sick, that's what you're going to believe. But if you change the way that you think, if you sit there and you shun away the evil and the negativity, then anything that you do and that you do in life, you will know that everything that you do comes with a consequence. So regardless whose law that you're following, there's a consequence that comes behind what you do. You feel me? That's what we have to understand as people. We can't keep blaming people, you know, for what we've done in life. We can't keep blaming people for where we're at. You feel me? But at the same time, once you're in a situation and you have a person who has control over you, they will take advantage of you. That's why they will leave someone into a cell, you know, with no food or no bed. You see what I'm saying? Or that's why they lock someone up over $5. That's why people kill over 50 cents. Because you have that much control over a person, allow them, you know, to take advantage. And we have to stop allowing people to take advantage of us. You know, we have to understand where we come from. And once you understand who is self, and I'm going to keep saying that to the people, once you understand who is self, once you realize where you come from, and understand the royalty and the level of why people hate you, why people want to take away from you, and why people want to see you fall, you know, you will never ever succeed to where you want to be at because you won't understand. We were told that we will forget where we come from. And that's what it is, you know, and that is written down in the books. You know what I'm saying? I really pray for my people. I pray for you all. I pray for everyone that's listening to me right now. I understand that this world that we live in is not for us, but it's for us to build up. We made everything that's here, you know. Well, we don't understand that. Mm-hmm. We don't understand that the laws was made for something that's so natural to be broken and taken away because that's control. Okay. And once you realize that, you know, you can't be controlled, you're free.
I think Joe makes some really excellent points, and I thank you for calling in and bringing a real tone to the voice of Hampton Roads and a lot of people who are feeling what you're saying, and you just articulated in a very succinct way. And if I may just offer this, what I'm hearing from you is cultural memory, how the statue will bring a different type of memory from what we have and what we know in our culture. And it reminds us of oppression. It reminds us of the segregation. It reminds us of lynching. It reminds us of treating our women as cattle. And so that's not the memory. That's not the cultural memory we want to honor in these statues and around our urban and rural communities across the United States of America. In addition, what I heard you say, Joe, is that power is a beast, and we can have the choice of using power for good, or we can have the choice of using power for bad. And that power and how it's displayed in American society can be based on America's beliefs, America's values, and how we visualize America in the upcoming future. And I would say upcoming meaning the near future. And so we do have an influence, we do have a voice, and we do have power. And I also heard you say that we need to involve ourselves in the legal side of it all so that we know that we can be utilized. You know, Joe, just the other day I was giving a lecture, and in the back of the room I saw a framed book from Ralph Edison, Invisible Man. Mm-hmm. And it dawned on me, are we as a people still invisible?
Yeah, man.
Have the laws totally forgot about us? Were we inclusive in the laws when they were designed? Are we inclusive in the laws today? I feel a lot of time that people are trying to make their way, or trying to make themselves fit into the law that was not designed for them as a people anyway.
That's right.
And so if that is the case,
now you understand what I say.
Yeah, and if that's the case, we're invisible. And because we will actually have to assimilate all of our beliefs, all of our training, our culture in order to matriculate in a society that was never designed for us. So we have to be very mindful that we do have power, and we have to garner that power and utilize that power to push ourselves, our community, and the whole world forward. And so I do appreciate what you, one last thing that I heard that you say is revisiting history.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that there's a difference between history and his story.
Yeah, man.
And our experiences have been left out of history. You know, we still...
Because it's always been his story. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
His story. You see what I'm saying? Our people was always told not to read. You see what I'm saying? Our people was always told not to write. You see? We was killed for that.
But you know, Joe, that might be the first thing I disagree with. We weren't always told that. Because we have the right to read now. No one is preventing us from reading now. And we need to get ourselves, we need to get ourselves in the library.
Hold. Let me preach to you one time. All right? You got to understand, this is from slavery, right? You were taught not to do something. You feel me? And you were punished for what you was taught not to do.
Well, that's true.
All right?
Yeah.
Right? Now, listen. Throughout the years, that was passed down. Well, you know, if you sit there throughout the years, so many years we lost out because we were not reading. We were not writing. You see what I'm saying? So many of us. You know, how many stories there was more than just Nat Turner. It was more than just Harriet Tubman. It was more than just, you know what I'm saying, the people that came with them in slavery times. You know, and that's what you don't understand. Benjamin Banneker, all these people that came before us, George Washington, everyone that made history before then, we was taught not to read. You see, and without reading, without learning, without knowledge, you have no type of way of path. So now that we can read, and now that we can sit there and find that key to life, you feel me?
I absolutely agree with you, Joe.
Yeah.
But let me just add this, and I know you have to run, but let me but let me just add this. We also have to write our own stories. Stop waiting for other people to write our stories. Right. You know, there's a tremendous amount of gatekeeping in academic sources to prevent African Americans from telling their truths, and Native Americans for telling their truth, and Latino Americans for telling their truths. But guess what? We don't need those resources anymore. You know, social media is so powerful, so why aren't we speaking our truths and our stories? And I think the real problem is we sit down with our grandparents and we was like, oh, grandma and grandpa, nobody will ever believe your experiences. It's not for us to decide whether or not people will believe it. It's up to us to document it and put it out there. And
like you said, it's documented, my man. Yeah. You know, it's documented on that Facebook and it's documented on the Instagram. That's why I need for my people to stop showing their I'm not cussing on the line, but I'm going to say this. Stop showing yourself out there. Stop stepping outside of character, people. You hear me? Because it is documented. When we leave this earth, when they go back in the time and our kids look at what we do in this generation that we live in, they will see how we lived. And that's what's going to lead the next people, next generation to do what they do. And that's the only way to make change, is to change what we do.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. And, you know, he's absolutely right, too, on several points. Because the biggest obstacle to taking down the monuments, the Confederate monuments, is Virginia State Code 15.2-1812. That protects them and make it illegal to take it down unless we change the laws in the General Assembly. And
that's what a Virginia Beach councilman is standing on for not removing a monument that's actually in front of the old Princess Anne County Courthouse. He's standing on that particular law. Absolutely. And so it's going to take our state legislators to make a change in that law to where, I mean, it's in court right now. And so that's the legal battle right now, because the laws, the people who was in power when those monuments were going up knew this battle was going to happen, and they put a state law in place to make it illegal to take it down. And we do have one more call before we go on break. Nope. Okay, not anymore. Alrighty. So we're not done with these monuments. I still want to hear from you, Hampton Roads. 823-9110, 823-9110. Do you think that removing all of these monuments will have some kind of effect or result on the other side of it? And if you think so, call and tell us, what do you think that is? 823-9110. It is Justice for Hampton Roads on Hampton Roads Voices, Hot 91. Hot 91, your choice for hip hop and R&B soul. We are in the home stretch here of Hampton Roads Voices. Tonight's episode is entitled Justice for Hampton Roads. We're just taking a closer look at all of these happenings and incidents around Hampton Roads that may have justice in question.
You know, the last caller really did a good job in his conversation about us stepping out of character, and that when we do step out of character, that is documented. And for me, when he said that, the documentation of us stepping out of character is the arrest history and the arrest record that follow us throughout our lives and restrict us from getting the jobs that we want before we can take care of our family and feed our children. And so to me, when he said, you know, we have to stay in character, we have to stay proud people and represent our race very well, because when we do step out of character, it is going to be documented, and unfortunately, the documentation is through criminal history that is not beneficial to us at all.
Right, and I would agree. And we have some phone calls. Let's get to that. Hi, 91, you're live on the air. Who am I speaking with?
This is Nicole.
Hi,
from
Nicole.
Norfolk.
Hey, Nicole from Norfolk. What's your question, comment, or concern?
Okay, so for one thing, I just kind of want to get on that, on what he was just talking about as far as stepping out of character. I don't believe that we as people, and I mean that people that are all full of all colors, it doesn't even matter. But I really feel like, I don't feel like people are stepping out of character. I feel like that's the character that they give us, and so therefore we take that as our character, and then when we do outburst, that is our character because of what we were basically raised to know. I feel like people should just raise their consciousness, you know, become illuminated, so that way that you can understand self. Once you understand self, because it goes deeper than knowing self, because once you know yourself, you know everybody. You know, we're all connected in that one way. And like I was saying earlier, before I came on the radio, you know, them removing those statues and changing the names and the monuments, it really wouldn't make a difference, because we've already been trained to think a certain way, and we as people have, you know, we call each other the B word, we call each other the N word. Those are things that lower, that's our lower self. That's not higher self. We have to be, you know, one with duality and spirituality. It goes both ways. You have to know the physical realm, you have to know the spiritual realm before you can even try to help someone else out. You got to give yourself self-love, because you can't give love unless you actually, you know what I'm saying, love yourself. You can't give anything up. So before someone can say, oh, I'm stepping out of character, first you have to figure out, okay, well, why would I be stepping out of character? What makes me step out of character? What is out of character? Because all these words that we're being fed are English. This is European. I'm not surprised that most of our people can't read or can't become enlightened, because we don't understand the language, the you know, the terminology of what these people are speaking to us and what they say to us. It's a different meaning when it comes to the light. You know what I mean? When you finally understand it. And I feel like if people did not had to step out, I realized that I was conscious at 8 years old. I realized I was a physical being. I realized that I was here on this earth, and I realized that there was something that I needed to do. And you go through your trials and tribulations by, you know what I'm saying, illuminating yourself, getting yourself to that higher level, so that way that you can understand. Because it's not going to make a difference if they remove those monuments or even change the name. That's just going to make us spend more money and become even more in debt. And we as people, we shouldn't actually be in debt, because we're rich beings. We are rich beings. You make your own world. So it goes by what you think, what you were taught, what you say out of your mouth. Your words are bond. And you have to get rid of religion, and you have to get rid of fear, because those things are the only things that are holding you back from basically becoming the true power, your true powerful self.
Yeah. Do you believe that a Confederate monument or a Confederate flag would be intimidating to some folks, particularly if it's at a city hall, at a court building?
Well, I believe that I believe that those monuments are for, because these people nowadays, they're not gonna, it doesn't really matter to them. They didn't go through slavery. They didn't go through those hard times. So for you to remove a monument that's been up forever, okay, it really has no significance to me, because I try not to care about those things, because if I care about those things, I mean, because like I said, they put us in a certain mind frame where we worry about paying our bills, paying, you know what I'm saying, paying for our cell phone bills, making sure that we keep in contact with people. We were not like that. We were not like that.
But
it
what
would make a
about,
difference.
Nicole, what about the other side, though? You're looking at it from the African-American side of those who want the Confederate statues down. What about the other side that being empowered because they're still up? They said, okay,
well,
this is
haven't they already been empowered, though?
Hold on, let me finish. They're looking at these statues and monuments saying, okay, this is a reminder that this is my land. This is a reminder that I own this. This is a reminder that I own you. Mm-hmm. And those subtle reminders, day in and day out, will increase until it get to the point that they can drive to Charlottesville, Virginia, and take a car and drive it full speed ahead through a group of peaceful protesters and kill, because this is their land. You understand what I'm saying?
Do you think they're going to stop? Do you think they're going to stop once you take it down, or once it's removed, because it's already in our history?
But it's not.
It's not even our history. It's his story. You see what I'm saying?
But it's not about necessarily it stopping as much as it's about us not endorsing it.
Oh, so basically leaving it as a reminder. That's what you're asking me,
right?
And
also as a cultural empowerment tool for anti-American sentiments.
I feel like if they did remove it, speaking on, the European side, if I feel like if they did go ahead and remove those things, or, I feel like it actually would help out just a little bit, but not on our side, because we're still going to be reminded, because our kids are learning this every day in school. But as far as their side, I feel like if they go ahead and remove it, it's going to show them, okay, times are changing. Here it comes. You know what I mean? But I kind of also feel like that might bring a little bit of an uproar, because of the simple fact that they're like, oh, you're erasing our history, and you guys already got Black History Month, and you guys have a whole channel dedicated to you. Yeah, but what about the rest of the channels? Yeah, but what about you? You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's still going to cause a little bit of controversy. I don't feel like it's going to calm down, but I mean, it might put a little help in there.
Nicole, but wouldn't you agree? First of all, thank you for acknowledging it. I really appreciate that. But don't you also agree that we're not going to solve all the world problems and all the injustices in our society in one swoop? So
no, of course not.
Right. So we agree on that. So what I urge all Hampton Roads listeners right now is to be reminded that we're not the only one that looking at these statues. We're not the only ones that get it. For example, the African American Museum in Washington, D.C. that they opened up recently. I had the wonderful opportunity of going in there. I was so empowered. Oh, wow. I felt so proud. It gave me a rebirthing of my blackness, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I felt like, God, this is my land. This is my country. They can't take this away from me. I'm seeing all of these sacrifices and this wonderfulness. And I also saw the degradation and how we rose out of those ashes. So, Nicole, what I'm saying to you is, if I got empowered from that one museum in one location in this nation, imagine the empowerment that these white supremacists get every time they go to an urban area and see these huge, beautiful statues
in city hall,
in city halls, and it's a reminder of them that, you know what, we made these laws and they're not included in this. They didn't do X, Y, and Z. So that's what I'm saying to you. So it might not make a whole lot of difference on the black side, but it will make an impact in terms of the fabric of America.
How hard is it? How hard is it to get a statue of Martin Luther King, who was a nonviolent person who fought for equal justice for all? How hard is it to get a statue of him in a downtown city?
It was very hard for them.
Very, very hard.
Like 4 to 5 years for them to build.
But how easy was it to put a Confederate statue right in downtown Norfolk?
Okay.
It was very easy.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I can see the difference in. I mean, because I am thinking a little bit one-sided, but that's only because of the color of my skin, and that's what I'm judged by. You know what I mean? But like I say,
but don't lose that. We don't want you to lose that either. We were
no,
just offering
I'm not
you.
going to lose that because I know that black and white, those are colors. Because I'm not black. Because I heard you. I heard you say a little bit of my blackness. But see, because like I said, I'm about higher self, not about lower self. When that's a Neanderthal thought to think. But no offense, I'm just saying it's because I don't want to put myself in that lower vibration because, like I said, I want to raise up my people. And so for me to call myself black or for me to call myself white, that is giving me the status of what these Europeans have put upon us. You know what I mean? As far as that's a status. That's a status. A color, even though it's a color, that's a status.
Nicole, may I ask where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Norfolk.
I want you to. Are you in? Do you go to Norfolk State by any chance?
No, I don't. But I go over that area all the time.
I want you to come by my office, and I want to sit down and have a wonderful dialogue with you. I like you, and we can talk. Okay. Okay. So I want you to stop by Brown Hall and look up Perkins. Okay.
Perkins?
Yes, Robert Perkins.
All right.
All right. Thank you for calling.
Okay, you have a beautiful day.
I look forward to talking to you.
Okay, me too.
We do have one more call, and then we're going to wrap it up here because we only have a few more minutes left in Hampton Roads Voices. Hi, 91, you're live on the air. Who am I speaking with?
You're speaking with Angel from Norfolk. How y'all doing today?
We're doing well, Angel.
Pretty good.
What's your question, comment, or concern?
I would just like to add to both of the callers' suggestions and comments. The first call, the young fellow that would talk for a long period of time, he has some important points. And first, you have to learn self. And I'm going to explain to you why you have to learn self. I've been in this area for quite some time, mostly all my life. Went through Norfolk Public Schools. And, even though I went to Norfolk Public Schools, they didn't teach me everything I needed to know for self and history. All throughout the history books, social studies, they never mention none of the stuff, none of the evil that a lot of these people that are put in power for so many years have done. I didn't realize this stuff until I was put in a place where I had no choice but to reach out and find self. Who were my people? Who was God talking to in the Bible? A lot of stuff I realized that had been tainted with from day one. So, my thing to the public, the people that are listening, you have to research who you are. Then you will know your place. As far as the Confederate statues, it's many things, it's many issues before these Confederate statues that should have been addressed and have went way overboard with timing. And I'm going to give you a date and a time frame that things have been really overlooked. And see, you don't know until you know self. 1921, Tulsa, Oklahoma, those events, I did not become aware of those till I was 38, 39. Now, mind you, none of these things were in the history book. But they tell us about the Holocaust and what the so-called Jews went through. But they failed to mention in those same history books that Norfolk Public Schools give you to learn history. They never tell you about all these people that were in power. Some presidents, the first president, the person who wrote the Star Spangled Banner. All these people were slave owners. And they did some very, very sinister stuff throughout their term. So I would just like to say to the people of 757, do your history, pick up a book and read about who you are as a nation of people. And you will understand that this land is not our land. So therefore, my children will not stand for any Star Spangled Banner or any type of thing, anything representing the United States, because a lot of people don't know what the United States has planned for everybody besides black people. Black people will always be targeted, and no matter how rich, no matter how many scholars that are out there that are black, you still will be labeled and quoted. No matter what you do, you still will be quoted as the big N-word, no matter how far in life you get. So there, We left with the issue of knowing who you are, your place here. This is their land. And I know it. So at the end of the day, whether the statues come down or not, it's still more issues that need to be addressed more important than those statues that have not yet been addressed. And that starting in 1921, we still haven't got answers back from that. The Black Holocaust, how they took a whole city of people and destroyed them, went door for door, and eliminated kids, eliminated children, women, hard-working men, even people that were serving in the United States Army, they slaughtered like dogs in the street. So America, if y'all didn't know that, 757, y'all didn't know that, now you know. Do your research. Y'all have a nice evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
I love our listeners.
Me too.
They're just so passionate, so passionate. We had a couple of other things to get to during this episode. But you know, these Confederate monuments kind of hung us up, and it's all good. It's all good. I still think we had a really good conversation. I want to thank my special guest experts today, of course, Dr. Perkins and Professor James. Thank you very much. You guys were phenomenal, as always.
May I say one thing before we go off air?
Please.
I want to pay homage to Dr. Mark C. Mathis. He's a Norfolk State alum, and he was a very good friend of mine when I was undergrad here at the institution. Mark graduated from Norfolk State in '94. He became the national director of the National Minority Angel Network and a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And he worked with Shark Tank, Damien John, on a lot of philanthropy projects, and he's done a lot of good in the world. Mark passed away from colon cancer yesterday.
Oh, man.
And like I said, he's a very good friend of mine, and I'm just very proud of all of his accomplishments that he's made in his brief life that I believe that ended all too soon. So for those in the Hampton Roads area that knows the power of prayer or want to send good energy to his family and friends, they're in need of it today. I spoke to Mark a week ago, and last week when he talked to me, he talked about how he wanted his funeral to be. And I listened, but in my mind, I was like, I don't have to worry about that anytime soon.
Wow.
But it came, and I just want to express my condolences to the family, and I will be in Delaware for the services. And as an alum of Norfolk State, there's a common bond that we have with Mark, and I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I appreciate the things that Norfolk State University do, because knowledge is power, and Norfolk State is a place where you can come and do your research, gain knowledge, gain understanding. And of course, I appreciate the work we do at Tidewater Community College also, to make sure that we educate our society. Thank you. I really appreciate being here.
Yes. And we'll try to have you back, Professor. And we always have you back, Dr. Perkins.
I'm ready.
Yes. Do not forget that we do have a YouTube channel. Please go subscribe. I know that we have so many more listeners than we have subscribers on that YouTube channel. So go ahead and look it up. Hampton Roads Voices on YouTube. Get all those episodes that you love, that you want to hear again. They're all up there for you. Also, this episode will be rebroadcasting on this coming Sunday, the 24th. The 24th. Sunday the 24th. So make sure that you tune in at noon, okay? I think that is all. Yes, make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Hot91 Online, and become our friend on Facebook, WNSB Hot 91.1 FM. Have a good one. Yes.
Hello to my goddaughter Angel.
Hey, goddaughter Angel. Keep it locked. It's Hot 91. The views and opinions expressed on this program are not those of Norfolk State University or WNSB FM. Thank you for listening.